Bookies New and Used Books is a supporter of WXAV 88.3 FM and WXAV.com. Located at 10324 Southwestern Avenue in Chicago, Bookies offers a selection of new and used books with orders available for books not currently in stock. For more information, visit their website at bookiesbookstores.com.
This is a WXAV 773 Sounds podcast, introducing you to the best local bands in the Chicagoland area.
Hi, this is Peter Kreten from 773 Sounds here on the WXAV 88.3 FM Chicago. And I am really excited because we have another great local band joining us here today. We have Paul Coady from Coady and the Edsel brothers here. Paul, how are you?
I am doing well, Peter. Thanks so much for having me on the show.
Oh, man, it's our pleasure. So I think we just got to start. Let's go all the way back in the beginning. Can you tell us how the band got together?
Sure. For 22 years, I was in a band called Prairie Town, and we played, mainly in the city and, regionally a little bit and stuff like that. And while I was playing with that band, Rob and Joe, who are the rhythm section of the Edsel brothers, they were playing in a band called the Hungries, and we played some shows together. And as Prairie Town ended, I started working with my wife, Kathy Greenhold, who's a singer-songwriter herself, and Rob and Joe came in as the rhythm section to work with her. And we played together. And then I was like, hey, I've got a stack of songs that I'm looking to record. And we started working on that and put out a few records. And then for the last couple of records, Jim Henning has joined us as an additional guitarist. And Jim and I go back to the very first day of college for me.
Wow.
I was a student at UIC, and my first day walked in with my brand new Fender Stratocaster because I thought I was cool. And Jim said, hey, can I see that? And he picked it up and played it much better than me. And I was like, okay, so he's cooler. And we played a little bit back in the day and then went our separate ways for 30 some years. Mm-hmm. And then during the pandemic, everybody on lockdown were, people on social media. And I started talking to Jim and I said, hey, I've got a bunch of songs I'm working on. Would you want to come and play some guitar? And he had spent all this time doing like festival gigs with like large, corporate type bands and things like that. So he can just play anything. Yeah. And so he walked into my basement where we rehearsed, and it was like no time at all had passed. It was the same ridiculous jokes. He got along with Rob and Joe really well. And I just figured he'd come in and maybe play some guitar on a record, and then that would be it. But he, because as we know, in original local music, there's no money. And he was used to playing gigs and getting paid pretty well for it. But he joined in, and so now we're a 4-piece, and we're out there doing it. We've as with the Edsel brothers, we've made 5 records. The new one is There Comes a Time, and we released that on August 1st.
And that album it's so good. The first time I was listening to it, it has this great garage rock sound, but there's also like a little bit of like the Pixies element going on in there too. It's just got this really cool killer like vibe and everything. What was your approach to kind of finding the sound? Like, was it something that happened organically, or was it like over some time you're like, oh yeah, this is the sweet spot?
No, we have always been, as I say, sort of a plug in and play sort of band. We're not technologically advanced or anything like that. We may be recording digitally at this point, but we record in a manner that it could be 1954 while we're doing it. Up until this record, it has been, tube amplifiers, everybody playing live in the same room at the same time, lots of bleed, and just going at it, being a rock and roll band, everybody, listening to each other, playing along with each other and communicating musically and texturally, like in the same space. We did it a little differently this time because I was trying to get a little different drum sound. So what we did is we used amplifier modelers, where we didn't actually have loud amps going on in the room. Everything was going through these little boxes that sort of make it sound like a 1950s, guitar. Yeah. So using a lot of technology, but still making it sound like it was, back in the old days. And so all you really heard in the room were the drums when we were playing, and it was interesting for us because it was really experiment. We went into it with some trepidation, quite frankly, and we're like, okay, let's see how this goes. We may have to just stop and start all over again. But we were pleasantly surprised that the stuff worked for us. But yeah, we are a turn it on, turn it up, and count to 4 and off to the races rock and roll band.
Yeah, and I love that. I love that because I think that's definitely kind of missing from today's musical, genres and everything, where it's just you're plugging in and you're going. But I mean, you guys, that garage sound, it really blew me away with just how you were able to like just capture like that vibe and in an essence, and that record, There Comes a Time, it's so good. I mean, you got songs like The Fool You Know, Everyone's a Suspect. I mean, there are some just like killer tracks on this record. It's really, really fantastic.
Well, thank you.
So can you kind of walk me through your writing process? So for you, do you kind of start first with melody, or do you go with lyrics first? Like for you, what's the genesis of songwriting for you?
Well, you know what? It will happen in a variety of ways. It's not always the same thing. Usually for me, it starts off with a phrase or a storyline that I want to tell. And then I will start to get an idea of lyrically where I want to go, but not specifically. And then I'll sit down with the guitar. And unlike a lot of people, it tends not to be acoustic guitar. I tend to sit down with an electric guitar and
oh, interesting.
And because that's I do play acoustic. I have done some acoustic shows and stuff like that, but I'm just a fan of distorting an electric guitar and having at it, even during the writing process. And so I'll start with a phrase, and then I'll pick up the guitar and start to, see what works. And sometimes songs take a long time, and you're honing words and phrases, and you're pulling ideas from past things to move in. And sometimes they just flow right out of you. And, in 3.5 minutes, you've got a 3.5 minute rock and roll song. And you're like, okay, that's pretty much how it's going to be. And for that's like the leadoff track, Nut Up, came very quickly. And it was, I bet you that was written in an hour or so.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And then, other ones, like Sundown Town, working on lyrics and stuff like that, took a much longer time.
That's interesting. And it really shows just kind of like the variety way that you approach your songwriting and everything. Who do you look for as your inspirations? Like, who's someone that you look at and say, man, they can write a killer track?
There's so many people out there. And actually, just the other night on your show, you were playing one of them, Phil Yates of Phil Yates and the Affiliates. We've been lucky enough that Phil asked us to play a show with them at the Hideout a little while back, and he's a great songwriter. For me, as when I was a kid, it all started with Buddy Holly. I was like, this, and then from there it was like a lot of punk bands and things like that. And then lyrically, I sort of hold Springsteen up there as the high example of stuff. When people who don't really have a current music knowledge say, "Oh, what do you guys sound like?" I always say, instrumentally, we sound like a early '60s garage band, and lyrically, hopefully, we're a little more contemporary and in sort of like the Springsteen mold or something like that. But boy, like John Fogerty of Creedence, he could just drop his hands on the guitar and he's going to write a great song. And it's just you go see somebody like that in concert, and it's like, there's another one that's great. There's another one that's great. And so, those American rock and roll guys are what really get to me. And it's funny because my band, Joe and Rob and Jim, they are much more than me influenced by British rock. And so it's interesting when we're working on arrangements, especially with Jim joining for the last couple of records on guitar. there are things that like The Fool You Know. I think it sounds it didn't change dramatically from how I wrote it, but when you hear the meshing of the guitars, it takes on more of a British vibe sonically.
Yeah, it definitely does. It kind of has like almost like a Yardbird vibe to it and everything. So I'm here with Paul Coady. Now, if people want to check out the band, where can they go and find you online?
Well, the easiest place would just go to our website, which is paulcoady.com. And I would tell people that Coady is spelled Coady. So it's paulcoady.com. And that you can listen to tunes there. You can see videos of the band. You can hear what we're up to. And then you can get to our social media pages. There's a band Facebook page, which is Paul Coady and the Edsel Brothers. And that's also, pretty well kept up to date. I would say right now we're sort of in a bit of a hiatus because I don't know if you're aware that during the recording of this record, Rob Four, our bass player, right in the middle of the recording of this, he suffered a stroke.
Oh no!
And so he's doing much better. He's been back at the last couple of rehearsals, and we're working with him to get him up to speed. And it's it's a process, quite frankly. And so there may come a time where we play a show with somebody filling in for him and have Rob play on a couple of songs that he's good to go on. But right now we're just we're showing up at rehearsal and we're getting him back up to speed, and then we'll be out there playing all the usual places.
Well, all the best recovering to him, and he's definitely in our thoughts. But we're really happy to hear that he's doing better and everything.
Yeah, he has improved dramatically, and our fingers are crossed, and we're plugging forward.
Oh, that's wonderful. I'm happy to hear that he's doing better. So I have right now, I'm on your Bandcamp. You have some great descriptions of some of the tracks for the new album, which is called There Comes a Time. And one of them that stands out for me is Dark, Dark Days. And you have the description on here saying, Dark, Dark Days is the opposite side of the fool you know. It expresses a desire for hope by striving for a better future. And it's funny you write that because when you hear those songs and you play them back to back, they really are like the same side of a coin and everything. And it's a really great listening experience. Do you tend to find yourself being more optimistic or pessimistic?
I tend to write about some dark subjects, but not always, but a lot of the time I try to find the optimistic side coming out of it. So while the song might deal with a dark subject, maybe the last verse or the last chorus starts to see the light of day or something like that. Like Dark, Dark Days, throughout the song, the choruses are, through these dark, dark days, they're going to be dark, dark days. And then the final chorus during the fade out is it's no more dark, dark days. So this whole record is about making yourself heard and putting your mark down, planting your flag, as it were, whether it be in today's society or in your interpersonal relationships. So The Fool You Know deals with, we've all unfortunately witnessed people in relationships where one person in the relationship is hoping that the other person is going to change, and odds are that's not going to happen. And then Dark, Dark Days being sort of the flip side of it is that both people in the relationship realize things aren't great, but they're willing to put the work in, and they're striving to find a better future.
It's that eternal hope that we're all striving for and everything. And I think you guys do such a great job of just capturing that emotion and everything. And
my wife actually came in and sang on Dark, Dark Days.
You remind me, I was just going to ask if she was the one that sang on that.
Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And we rehearse and we record here, in my home. Mm-hmm. And so she's put up with us for many years, hearing us through the floorboards. And I said, hey, would you consider? And she's like, well, I already know it because I've heard it like 15 times while you guys have been rehearsing. And so she came in and knocked out a vocal track. And and it's great to have her on the record.
Now, you're a big veteran of the Chicago local scene and everything. How would you rate the scene right now with everything that's coming out?
I think musically, the scene has never been more varied, and we've been playing some shows where we'll play shows with friends lots of times too, but we've been booked on shows where we don't know the other people, and we get booked with much younger bands, and it's really it does the heart good to see people 25, 30 years our junior playing rock and roll that we go, oh, okay, I can get into that. I see what they're going for, and it's really enjoyable. I would say that there are less and less places for people to play. The pandemic didn't do anybody any favors. No. Several of the places that we played on a regular basis never came back after the pandemic. And the ones that are open, there's, more bands striving to get into those slots, and people have adapted. I've seen so many clubs go to doing Saturday and Sunday matinee type shows, putting more bands on bills. And it's, you do what you got to do. And so I'm very, very heartened by the scene. The guys I used to play with in Prairie Town, they're now in a band called Go Time. They're just finishing up a new record, playing bunches of shows. The Spindles are out there, and they just put out a cool record called Wavelength, and have been playing shows backing that up. The Diff. There's a lot of things going on, and it's wonderful to hear.
It really is. Now, I think this is an important question, and you're actually the first one that I've asked so far about this. But for anyone who is listening to our conversation, what would you suggest for them? How can they best support the local music scene, not only in Chicago, but anywhere where they're living in that?
Sure. The best thing you can do, but that's also the most time consuming, is to attend a show. Mm-hmm. Because unfortunately, the bands aren't making anything from the streaming or stuff like that. If you can go, if you utilize Bandcamp, purchasing directly from the band is a great thing to do. If you don't have the time or the resources to do that, if there's somebody in a band and they put something up about a show, share it on your social media. It takes a second, but it's helpful. Mm-hmm. If there's a record out there that you hear from your local scene and you like it, talk about it. Get on Facebook, get on Instagram, get on Blue Sky, whatever you use, and say, hey, I just listened to this and it's really great. Because people can find this stuff online and it's not hard for them. And if you can make a compelling, I just had somebody mention a record to me last night, and it's older, but didn't know it was out. And he mentioned it, and I'm like literally sitting on my phone going, oh, there it is. I can listen to it right now. And, so you do what you can. Going to shows is great. Picking up a physical CD or a T-shirt, that's what puts money in the band's pockets these days. But the streaming services, if that's how you listen to it, go get it.
Paul Coady, again, if people want to go and check out Paul Coady and the Edsel brothers, where can they find you?
PaulCoady.com, and I'll reiterate that it's Coady is Coady, so PaulCoady.com. And we're also on Facebook, Paul Coady and the Edsel brothers. You can search for that. And we're on Bandcamp, also Paul Coady and the Edsel brothers. And you can find all our records there. We're on all the major streaming services, and we appreciate you listening, and we appreciate the support.
Paul, thank you so much for joining us on 773 Sounds.
Peter, it's been a pleasure, and I really appreciate it.
Thank you for listening to this WXAV 773 Sounds podcast. For more information on 773 Sounds, please visit our website, wxav.com.